Thursday, October 30th, 2025. Welcome to another morning update brought to you by GraniteGrok.com and Grok Media LLC. Today was one of those days when I couldn't quite figure out what I wanted to talk about. Nothing really leapt off the page at me. Some of the stuff that I discovered I shared on Substack. Others I wrote about on Granite Grok. And then I saw the Granite poll, the Granite State poll, the UNH Granite State poll, and they polled Democrats. And it's a little early, about 3 years too early. But they asked them who they thought they'd vote for president if the primary was today. And they picked Pete Buttigieg. Yes, Mayor Pete, South Bend Mayor Pete. He got 19% of their support. Gavin Newsom came in second at 15%. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at 14%. Kamala Harris at 11%. Bernie Sanders at 8%. J.B. Pritzker at 6%. But they picked Mayor Pete. And I thought, well, Mayor Pete, the worst transportation secretary in this century, possibly ever. And, he's the guy that didn't go to East Palestine, Ohio after a toxic train wreck and explosion because the geniuses on the ground said, oh, let's light it all on fire, making the atmosphere toxic for miles and miles around. Mayor Pete, he didn't show up until the day after President Trump showed up, and it's all about optics. And the optics stunk. Speaking of optics, Mayor Pete ran for president before in 2020 against Joe Cabbage Biden. And so we have a lot of stuff in our archive at GraniteGrok.com. If you search Pete Buttigieg, you will find many, many stories, of which these are several. Dietrich Wohan, the first openly gay mayor of College Park, Maryland, who was also a regular White House guest, and Pete Buttigieg's mentee, has just been arrested for 56 counts of child porn. Moving along, Pete Buttigieg won essay contest in high school defending socialism and his hero Bernie Sanders. Next, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg recently vetoed a city council measure to allow a pregnancy care center in his city. His reason? Violence, because, pregnancy care centers are only known for their violence because abortion clinics sell that narrative to the left and they peddle it everywhere. Next up, Mayor Pete is sticking his Buttigieg where it doesn't belong. He's standing with the New Hampshire ACLU and college students, some of whom could be from Indiana, where they have a residency requirement for voting and no same-day registration. Mr. Buttigieg came out against a bill that would require students who vote in New Hampshire to actually live in New Hampshire, while in Indiana, they have a 30-day residency requirement and a 29-day registration requirement. No same-day registration, so it would be a lot easier for students from Indiana to vote for Pete in New Hampshire than it would for students in Indiana to vote for Pete in Indiana. Choo Choo Pete was also famous for his Department of Transportation blocking efforts to see his taxpayer-funded travel expenses. His ancestors owned slaves. And then you remember that whole pregnancy care center thing? Well, it turns out that the abortion doctor who was working right next to the pregnancy care center that didn't get put in was the guy who had 2,200 plus preserved fetuses in his house. Yes, Dr. Ulrich Klopfer had 2,246 medically preserved fetuses in his home. That's a small slice of Mayor Pete, and that's who Democrats right now think is the best candidate. I don't know what to tell you. Look at the top names on this list. Again, Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, Sandy Cortez, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not a Republican or a Democrat, but you vote in the state of New Hampshire, look at that list. You cannot vote for Democrats in the state. You cannot let any of those people have control of anything, or they will ruin your state. And we know they will. They've been pushing for sanctuary status, even though it's against the law in the state of New Hampshire for them to do that. And, of course, they've wanted to raise lots of taxes. Why? Because apparently the government you have that's working so well, that's not interfering with your life, isn't working well enough for them. They want to make it bigger. They want it to interfere with your life because that's the only thing it can do, and it can't do it without your money. So your best bet is to stop voting for Democrats. Just don't do it. If you can't vote for Republicans, don't show up. Even though, yeah, we have imperfect Republicans. Of course we do. They're human beings. But here's the thing. They are more likely to just keep the government out of your face, whereas the Democrats can't not get the government in your face and can't not take as much money from you as possible to make that happen. That's your message for today. See you tomorrow.